Hi, I'm Matt Collins. I'd like to welcome you to Bob Weber Auto Mart on Douglas Avenue here in Racine, across from Douglas Park. We specialize in 1-year-old, low mileage, almost new cars. And if you'd like to stop by and see them, or see them on our website, bobweberautomart.com, we could save you between $5,000 and $10,000 on your next almost new car purchase.
Welcome into another edition of Sports Junkies. Steve Sparky Fifer from the Wendy's Big Show on Sports Radio 1250 WSSP, along with Gery Woelfel of the Racine Journal-Times, one of the top basketball insiders in the country. It covers the NBA. Time now for some Bucks basketball talk, as the Bucks finally break their losing streak at 11, getting a win against Boston at the BMO Harris Bradley Center. And then they go to Boston and lose, return home, and lose to Brandon Jennings and the Detroit Pistons. And Brandon Jennings looked like I remember seeing Brandon Jennings play for the Bucks. Like 4 of 16 from the field. I mean, that's pretty much the same guy I remember.
You know what? I'm into body language, and body language tells a lot about people on how they feel about certain subjects. When we started this segment, you were like this, like a caged lion, and like you were really, really suppressing something. So I'm waiting for something to pop out anytime here. You look like you're ready to roll in this segment.
All right.
But anyways, Brandon Jennings is a Buck. You know, he's got his points. He got more assists than I expected him to have. But you probably would have got 6 or 7 with Monroe and Drummond. But again, he shot 4 for 16. I think his season average is definitely
like 36%, 37%.
Yeah, south of 40%. So it's the same old Brandon Jennings.
His numbers this year in every category other than assists are down from his career numbers. Every other number, if you look at his line, every shooting percentage, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, free throw percentage, I think, rebounds, everything is down except assists. Assists are up almost 2.5 a game, I think, from where his career numbers are.
You know, I was talking to an NBA player a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the Pistons and how they just don't have the right parts. I mean, they got a lot of talent, but they just don't seem to have a real good chemistry. And we were talking about Jennings, and we were kind of breaking down his game. And you've seen enough of Jennings. Yeah. I've seen enough. And I said, well, and I just asked this guy for the heck of it. I said, how would you rate Brandon Jennings' defense? And he looks at me and he goes, he plays defense? He might be the worst defensive point guard in the league.
Mm-hmm. He was attempting to play defense.
And I don't care if Brandon Jennings scores 25 points a game, gets 10 assists, you still have to play the other part of the game.
Well, Brandon Knight must not have known they didn't play defense, because Brandon Knight was a man missing until the second half of that game. O.J. Mayo didn't have any points until the second half of that game. Your backcourt better do a heck of a lot better than it did against the Detroit Pistons. You're not going to win basketball games if Mayo's not throwing up 20, 25 points a night.
I couldn't agree with you more. He's been really like a roller coaster, up and down, very erratic.
That's been his career.
It has.
That's why he ended up being a 6th man in Memphis. That's why he wasn't the starter, and that's why I said when they signed him, okay, well, you better hope that lottery talent comes out when he can be the man. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If I was Larry Drew, I'd bring him in and say, look, you're taking 20 shots a game, and if you don't, I'm going to fine you $1,000 for every shot under 20 you take. I don't care if you take 30 shots. Go ahead. You got the green light whenever you want it.
Yeah.
He needs Hughes' mentality. He needs Gary Neal's mentality. Because Gary Neal,
I couldn't agree with you more.
That man don't pass.
No,
he don't. You can surround him with 5 basketball players. He's taking a shot.
Yeah, you know what I was thinking? I had this flashback. Neal got the ball. He was coming off a curl, puts it up. I go, that's Ricky Pierce. And then I said to myself, but Ricky Pierce usually made it. You know, you're right.
He does not pass.
Gary Neal has to tone down his shot selection. Not shot selection, but just tone down the number of shots. And Mayo has to ramp it up because he's got to score, especially when Brandon Knight is like indifferent. He'll come out and try to get everybody into the game and be non-aggressive. And last night he found his way onto the bench because Larry Drew saw both these guys were going through the motions. And I'll tell you, one play that really, really miffed me last night. There was a loose ball in the backcourt. Neal, first of all, had the ball in the front court, lost it, goes back into the backcourt, and he nonchalantly goes back there, and he's going with, I forget who the Piston was. Maybe it was Stuckey. And he just was really ambivalent about going after the ball. The next thing you know, Detroit had the ball. I mean, he made no attempt to go after the loose ball. And I'll tell you, if you're a fan, Nothing annoys you more than a lack of effort. Which is surprising because Gary Neal plays hard for the most part, and he came from a San Antonio Spurs system where you got to play hard. It's demanded and expected of you. But that one play was just, it was so conspicuous because it was out in front of everybody.
Another guy that we've nailed for being inconsistent over time has been Ersan Ilyasova. He played well last night. At least in the first half. He had 16 points in the first half, and really was the only reason they were still in that game in the first half.
Well, I talked to Ersan after the game, and he said this is the first time since he's come to Milwaukee that he felt healthy. I mean, he's really had...
So now he's healthy all of a sudden. I thought he had this lingering injury he had.
He did. He's had issues. I mean, he played for the national team in the summer, and when he came to camp, I could tell he was worn out mentally and physically. And if I'm a GM, I don't let my guys play in international competition. No more. But anyways, he's all worn down. And then during practice, then he hurts his ankle. And he said he could run up and down the floor, but he had real issues laterally. And if you're an NBA player...
Got to have lateral mobility.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have any lateral mobility. You're in trouble. But he said last night it really felt good. And, you can see what a difference. When he's out there, he can stretch the defense. Yeah. He's one. I mean, even the guards, nobody shoots the ball as well as him on that team right now.
No, nobody at this point. And they need him, and he's coming off the bench. At this point, I still don't understand why Epeyuto is starting. But starting John Henson at center is kind of questionable, too. Now, I know why you're doing it, because you're out Larry Sanders. Epeyuto's horrible. Zaza must have ended up in the doghouse because he's back on the bench.
Zaza's banged up, too.
So he's hurt, too.
He is. Last night was his foot. He's had various injuries this year. I mean, this team has just been...
Like they are
ravaged by injuries. I mean,
every year, don't we do this every year?
Normally, but it's usually like in the middle of the season, when things start to go south. But I've never seen a team this banged up so early. I really haven't.
Karan Butler, the Racine native, is out. He'll be back at some point next week, which is fine. But bonus time for the fans. Giannis, by far, biggest ovation of the night because he is the one everybody's there to see at this point. Had a huge block shot. And they gave him a bogus foul call. And I don't know how, because I didn't even see him touch body or anything else. But when Giannis is on the floor, there's some excitement.
Oh, no question about it. He is the fan favorite in Milwaukee right now. I did a story for the Journal-Times a couple days ago about him. And that play where he went on one end of the court, he tracked down a guy, blocked, and then went to the other end of the court and has a dunk. That story, Steve, went crazy. Yahoo Sports, like Yahoo and other... websites. They pick up stories from other papers, and they have my story. Within a couple hours, they had over 300 comments about this guy. He's not only a favorite in Milwaukee, he's a favorite already around the country. People are intrigued by this guy.
The other thing, I saw Ian Thomason, I think it was, talking about could he be the steal of this draft? Could he be the guy that everybody is talking about? But I mean, in that story, you talk about him possibly being 7 foot.
Right.
Now, this is what I'm trying to figure out, all right? Now, you help me here. If Larry Sanders remains a Buck.
If is a big if.
All right, but fine. Let's just say if he stays.
Yeah.
So Larry Sanders is at center.
Yeah.
John Henson is at power forward.
Yeah.
Giannis is at small forward at 6'11", 7 foot, because he's 6'10" and a half right now or whatever, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Then your shooting guard could be Wiggins. Jabari Parker's more of a 3, but who knows, considering what you have. Parker,
right.
I mean, you could have 6'8" at the 2, 6'11" at the 3, 6'10", 6'11" at the 4, 6'10", 6'11" at the 5. You want to talk about length. And then whoever your point guard is, they are good. They're in a position, they could be long and dangerous.
I was thinking in the last couple of days how the Bucks probably need a 3. I mean, in the big picture, if they could get Parker, Wiggins, something like that.
Well, what does that do to Giannis then?
He'll be a 4.
Okay, what happens to Henson?
He becomes 4 or 5, one of the two.
I just don't see how Giannis is big enough to play the 4.
I
don't think Henson's big enough to play the 5.
My theory is the Bucks are going to trade Sanders and get Omer Ashik from Houston. And Ashik is only 27 years old. Yeah. He's got like 7, 8. Big guys usually play till mid-30s.
Big guys usually have back problems and end up getting hurt later in their career.
Everybody I've talked to in the NBA said if they could trade Sanders for Ashik, it would be done in a deal. I mean, he's that good of a defensive player. But again, he's big, long, physical. Let's say theoretically you put him in the middle, Henson and Giannis, okay? You got that set. And then you could...
That's what I'm saying.
But my point is, and I was thinking, okay, if you don't get a small forward in this draft, if you get a guy like Exum, the point guard from Australia,
Yeah.
6'5", 6'6". Last night, and not only last night, last couple games, what I've noticed is with Ante Tukanumbo, say that 10 times.
Why bother? The great freak.
And
Or
Hansen,
Giannis.
they run the floor as well as any big man in the NBA. If you get a guy like Exum, who's a great ball handler, who can push the ball up the floor, that team could be really fun to watch.
Now, Larry Sanders, the video gets released by the cops, I guess, and you see the surveillance video from the club fight or whatever you want to call it that he was in. I saw it. We had it up on the 1250 WSSP Facebook page, probably still is, and we talked about it. You know, you can't really see how the fight starts in the upper right-hand corner of the screen.
It's in the distance.
Right,
yeah.
you guys see it. But then you see it kind of, maybe there was some other stuff going on, but Sanders was out of it. And he had somebody else in front of him.
He was out of it, no question.
He was out of it. The fight was over. As far as he was concerned, he was out of the fight. It was done.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, he picks up champagne bottles and starts throwing them into the crowd.
That doesn't everybody that goes to a club?
But wait a second.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, you know, I took a champagne bottle, was aiming for our producer Greg Eason's head and just threw it at him from point blank range, 5 feet.
Right.
He was just randomly just tossing bottles at people in the crowd. He wasn't even like really aiming at anybody.
It was almost comical. It was almost, well, he first of all, he did not look like he was drinking water all night. Put it that way.
He was slipping and sliding.
He was slipping.
But I don't know if if the floor was wet with alcohol or what the deal
Yeah,
was.
that was part of the problem. But anyways, it was comical as he's looking around and all of a sudden he turns around, he picks up the champagne bottle and he lofts it over his head into the crowd like it's a grenade, just buy the bottle, throw it out. But what I was told, and maybe you know more about this, is that the surveillance video that was released by the Milwaukee Police Department was only a portion of the fight. And I was told by various sources, including 3 people that were there, it went beyond that, and Sanders was more involved at that point. So
I don't know. I mean, all I can go off of is I don't have the sources he has. All I go off of was I saw in the video.
right, exactly. Based on that, it was like, it wasn't that bad.
Well, no, Sanders threw he should have, at that point, before he picked up the champagne bottle, whoever that dude was with him should have got him in a car and took him out of there and took him home. Because then there's no tickets, there's no nothing. He's out of there, it's over, gone, nothing. Nobody's in the hospital with stitches because of champagne bottles, none of that. And this is a non-incident, it doesn't even get reported.
Well,
but because he starts throwing those champagne bottles, and that complete idiot, that white dude, whoever that was, comes sprinting in from behind and jumps on him like a 5-year-old. What was that guy thinking? I don't know what his deal. How stupid are you?
But the point is, Larry Sanders is not a weak guy. It would have took several.
The fight was over. The guy came running from behind him and jumped on his guy.
He was definitely coming forward at that point.
No, he was not.
He was standing here like this.
No, he was not.
And who knows?
You're crazy. You're just looking for stuff.
No,
there was a guy in front of him. He was tossing champagne bottles. Fine. That's where he was wrong. And that's where I had the issue. What he should have done was just turn around and walk out. It was over. But because he kept tossing them, and then some Looney Tunes, guy comes running over and jumps on his back and reinstigates the whole fight, and then the brawl breaks on the bottom of the screen, and you see the brawl. If he walks out and doesn't throw the bottles, this isn't reported, there are no tickets, nobody's in the hospital, and it's over.
But the bottom line is, yes, he should have walked away from it. It's not like he just came to a club for the first time. He's been in a lot of clubs around the country. Sure. He's been in situations like this before.
Has it been in fights before?
He has?
Has not. That's what my point is.
Check your sources on that one.
I don't have any sources.
Okay.
All I know is I haven't seen any stories of him being in fights in any other clubs.
Correct. That is correct.
So from that standpoint, that's the only story I know of. So again, looking at it, yes, he's a fool for throwing the champagne bottles. I think he would agree with me.
I said this on the WSSP postgame show last night. If this was his first incident, understandable. Second one, okay. Third one, definitely not. Fourth one.
What other? Give me the other 3 incidents.
He has been.
The only incident I know of is the one that was reported. What other stuff do we know?
He has been involved in more than one.
Oh, and then we have the dog thing too. That was the other thing that came out from January or
and
February.
then we also have where he punched out or got into a brawl with Monte Ellis last year, and that was one.
Punched out Monte Ellis? I didn't hear that.
No, they got into an altercation.
Yeah, they argued.
They got into a physical altercation.
Oh, really?
They had to be separated.
Separated, right. But that didn't mean he hit him.
Well, I'm not sure the detail. But I do know he was involved in another incident last year, and that was serious, and that was not reported.
Well, why don't you report it?
We will look into it.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Gery Woelfel of the Racine Journal-Times, Steve Sparky Fifer from Sports Radio 1250 WSSP. Thanks for watching another edition of Sports Junkies, the Bucks edition, here at RacineSportsZone.com.